An 8-word text message kicked me out of Thanksgiving. My family said the table was full, so I didn't ask for a seat. I booked the entire grand ballroom at the Ritz instead. And that 8-word text, it resulted in a $2 million donation pledge, announced live on the nightly news before they had even finished their dinner. My name is Emery Parker. I am 31 years old, and I live in a glass tower in Denver that overlooks the spine of the Rockies. The morning before Thanksgiving, the sky was the color of steel, and the air smelled like imminent snow. I was finalizing the dissolution of my old life, which is a sterile way of saying I was about to be $95 million richer. My laptop was open, the cursor blinking patiently on a signature line. My coffee was cold, and then my phone lit up on the granite countertop. It was from my father. 8 words. Table is full. Next year. I stared at the message. Not, hey, Em, things are tight. Not, so sorry. Victoria's bringing her new in-laws. Just an executive summary of my status. Table is full. It was not an apology. It was an inventory report. My thumb hovered over the screen. I could feel the familiar sting, the hot flush in my cheeks that I had not felt since I was 12, sitting on the stairs while the main table laughed. But the 31-year-old me is different. The me who built Wayfinder route from a garage algorithm does not beg for a seat. I typed back 2 words. Okay. I hit send. The blue bubble was a period. Final. As cold and finished as the dregs in my mug. I stood up. My apartment is high enough that the city noise is just a hum. In the hallway, the elevator chimed softly. Someone heading down to the lobby. Their lives proceeding uninterrupted. The clock on the microwave read 9:04 a.m. The heat clicked on, blowing filtered air. Everything in the world continued its scheduled route. Nothing had stopped. My exclusion was just a minor data point, a package routed elsewhere. I walked back to my laptop. Tab 1 was the final wire instruction for the Wayfinder sale. Tab 2 was the press release the acquiring company had drafted, full of nonsense about synergy and future-proofing the supply chain. $95 million, and I could not get a seat at a folding table in Boise. That old feeling. The sting. It did not settle into sadness. It settled into focus. It was the same focus I got when a blizzard shut down I-70 and a shipment of critical medical supplies needed a new path now. Rejection is just a problem of logistics. They did not have a chair for me. That was the fact. My response was not to ask why. My response was to build a new table. I did not want their table. I suddenly realized I had not wanted it for a decade. I just wanted the idea of it, the warmth, the acceptance. But the actual table, the one where my accomplishments were muted, so Victoria's promotion could be loudly celebrated, the one where I was always asked to grab the extra butter because I was halfway to the kitchen anyway. No, I was done with that table. This feeling was not impulsive. It was strategic. It was the activation of the architect. I opened my contacts. I did not search for restaurants. I did not search for catering. I typed Ritz-Carlton, Denver. Grand Ballroom. A memory surfaced my mother, on the phone last Christmas, bragging to her sister. Oh, you can't just get the Ritz, she had laughed. Victoria looked for her engagement party. It's a 6-month wait list. Minimum. 6 months for them. I had until 6 p.m. Tonight, I bypassed reservations. I found the direct line for the general manager. A polite assistant answered. This is Emery, I said, my voice perfectly level. I need to speak to Mr. Alden regarding an event tonight. The pause was predictable. Tonight, ma'am, as in Thanksgiving night. Yes, it's a corporate contingency. It will be brief. A click. Hold music. Vivaldi. This is Robert Alden. His voice was smooth, professional, already braced to say no. Mr. Alden, my name is Emery. I need the grand ballroom tonight. Ms. Emery, I'm afraid that's impossible. We are fully committed. Our Thanksgiving brunch service runs until 3, and the ballroom is dark tonight. Dark is good, I said. I do not need your brunch. I need the room from 6 p.m. Until 10 p.m., I'll be bringing my own group. A group on Thanksgiving, ma'am. The logistics, the staffing. I need the room, the heat, the lights, and your best kitchen staff. I'm calling on behalf of the Sunrise home. The name registered. Sunrise was well known in Denver. I need seating for 60, I continued, the numbers clicking into place in my head like routing codes. 40 children and 20 caregivers. 60 tonight. Yes. And I have specific requirements. I want one single, continuous table. No round tops, a long, stately configuration, no kids' table. Everyone sits together, place cards, full service. He was silent. I could hear him calculating the overtime, the impossibility of it. The cost, he started. The deposit alone for a last-minute event of this scale is not an issue, I cut him off. You can run the deposit for the full estimated amount right now. I'll wire it before we hang up. It will clear in seconds. I was already pulling up the bank wire interface on tab 3. This is highly irregular, he said, but the no was fading from his voice. It's a highly irregular evening, I said. I also have a strict dietary requirement. The menu must be completely safe for all major allergies. Peanuts, gluten, dairy. I want options for everyone. I want the children to be able to eat everything without fear. That requires a complete kitchen reset. Then reset it. I will cover the cost. $95 million was finalizing in my account as we spoke. I could buy the kitchen. And the nature of the event? Alden asked, the professionalism returning. Is this for media? A press event for the home? Absolutely not, I said, my voice sharp. This is the most important part. There is to be zero media. My name is not associated with it publicly. The hotel makes no announcement. This is anonymous. The guests are the children and their staff. This is not a charity stunt. This is a dinner. He paused. Just Emery. Just Emery. I heard him typing. One long table. 60 guests. Full allergy safe. Thanksgiving menu. 6 p.m. tonight. That's correct. I can do it, he said finally. The shift was instant. He was a logistics man. 2. He saw the challenge. It will cost. Send me the invoice, I said. I typed in the wire amount, adding an extra $50,000 for the trouble. I hit confirm. The deposit is on its way, I said. You'll have it in less than a minute. I need your absolute best. Mr. Alden, tonight needs to be perfect. They will have it. Ms. Emery? I hung up. The apartment was still silent. The elevator chimed again. The text message still glowed on my phone. Table is full. Next year. I looked at the finalized contract for Wayfinder. I picked up a yellow sticky note and a black pen. I wrote 5 words on it and stuck it to the bezel of my monitor. Right next to the press release. If they don't invite you, build a bigger door. My childhood in Boise was not unhappy. That is the word people expect. It was not unhappy. It was efficient. Our house was full, especially on holidays, and space was always a premium. The main dining table, an oak monstrosity my father inherited, was the center of gravity, and I was in a low, predictable orbit, one designed for utility. I was 9 years old the first time I was asked to sit on the stairs. Emery, sweetheart, you mind sitting on the stairs? It just makes cleanup so much easier. It was not a question. It was a logistical directive. I said, okay, just as I had texted today. I took my plate of turkey and mashed potatoes and balanced it on my knees, my back to the wall. I was halfway up the main staircase, perfectly positioned to watch the back of everyone's heads. I could hear the clink of silverware, the rise and fall of adult laughter from the dining room, the bright peals of my sister Victoria's voice. I was close enough to be considered present, but far enough away to be invisible. It was, as my mother had said, efficient. I was already halfway to the kitchen to start the dishes. My older sister, Victoria, was the center. She was bright, loud, and incandescently charming. She played the piano. She won debate trophies. She was the storyteller. She was the event. I was the practical one. Victoria is so creative, my mother would tell friends at church, her hand resting on Victoria's shoulder. And Emery, well, Emery is just so practical. She'll run the world someday, I'm sure. It sounds like a compliment, but it was not. It was a cooling agent. It was the compliment you give a workhorse, not a thoroughbred. It was a box. Practical meant I was the one who knew how to reset the router when the Wi-Fi went down. Practical meant I was the one who could get a grass stain out of Victoria's tennis whites. Practical meant I organized the pantry, paid the bills online for my father, and knew the warranty information for the dishwasher. I was not a person. I was infrastructure. When I was 12, I decided to be creative. I spent 3 days, 3 entire days, perfecting an apple pie for Thanksgiving. I used my grandmother's recipe from the faded index card. I weighed the flour. I chilled the butter. I wove a lattice crust that was, frankly, a masterpiece of structural integrity. I was so proud my hands were trembling when I presented it. "Oh, Emery, that's beautiful," my mother said, taking the heavy glass dish from me. Her smile was brief. "We'll just put this over on the side counter, for safety." The side counter. It sat there, next to the empty casserole dishes waiting to be washed and the backup bag of grocery store rolls. Victoria's lumpy pumpkin pie, the one she made in 45 minutes from a can, took center stage on the oak table, right next to the floral arrangement. For safety. So it would not be in the way, so it would not take up valuable, visible space. Later that night, as my uncle proposed a toast, I did what I always did. I counted. It was a nervous habit, a way of mapping the room. I counted the crystal wine glasses, the ones my mother polished by hand. I counted the polished silver plates. I counted the chairs. There were 12 people at the main table, and there, tucked against the wallpaper near the coat closet, was the single, metal folding chair that meant they had almost had enough room. They had just forgotten to unfold it. I did not count myself. I was on the stairs. This is the important part. They were not cruel. They were not malicious. My father did not lock me in a closet. My mother did not criticize my pie. They just looked past me. Their gaze was habitual. When they scanned the room, their eyes would find Victoria and stop, locking on her light. My light was different. Mine was the low, steady, green LED on the router. You only notice it when it stops working. I never stopped working, so I stopped trying to be seen by them. It was an inefficient use of energy. I turned my attention to things that had to see me, things that were incapable of favoritism. In school, while Victoria was in drama club, I found the geography room. I fell in love with maps. A map is an honest document. A map does not care if you are charming or pretty. It does not have a favorite. A highway on a map exists, period. A river exists. A mountain pass is either open or it is closed. The map's only job is to show you the truth of the terrain. It shows you the obstacles, and it shows you the routes. I became obsessed with routes. Logistics, the complex, beautiful, mathematical dance of getting things from point A to point B. I loved the cold, hard certainty of it. If a truck leaves Boise at 6 a.m. with a load of perishable medical supplies, and it must cross 3 states and 2 time zones, and it has a non-negotiable refrigeration requirement of 38 degrees, it will arrive in Portland on Wednesday, or it will not. There is no bias. There is only the plan, the execution, and the result. The supply chain does not care about your feelings. It respects efficiency. It rewards foresight. My practical nature was not a social defect. It was a high-level processing skill. When I was 18, I was offered a full academic scholarship to a prestigious university on the East Coast, an engineering and logistics program. It was my ticket, my perfectly calculated route out. I showed my parents the acceptance letter over dinner. My father frowned, adjusting his glasses. "That's awful far. Emory, the out-of-state tuition." "It's a full scholarship, Dad," I said quietly. "It covers everything, room, board, tuition." "Well," my mother said, folding her dish towel into a perfect square, "it's just So far, Victoria's at the State University, and it's so convenient. We can see her every weekend. She brings her laundry home. She smiled. Why don't you look at their business program? It would be much more practical, and you could stay close to home. Convenient, practical. There were those words again. The walls of the box. Stay close. Stay in orbit. Stay on the stairs. I went east. I did not stay close. I learned to be silent. But effectively, I learned that in boardrooms and lecture halls, the person who speaks least but has the most data wins. I learned to clear my own plate, to speak in low, certain tones, and to do the work while others talked about doing the work. I built things. I wrote code. I solved problems that other people found boring. I graduated at 22 and took a junior product manager job in Denver. It was not glamorous. It was in cold chain logistics, managing the refrigerated supply lines for medicine and specialty foods through the treacherous mountain passes. It was all maps, all routes, all cold, hard facts. It was perfect. While Victoria was getting engaged at the Boise Country Club, I was in a freezing warehouse at 4 a.m., figuring out why a shipment of critical vaccines was losing 2 degrees per hour. I did not ask them for money. I did not ask them for advice. I built my life just as I had built my pie meticulously, carefully, with a structure I hoped would hold. The idea of a proper table went dormant. It was a childish need, like wanting a specific stuffed animal. It was inefficient to want it. I did not need their table. I had spreadsheets, and projections, and server uptime reports. I had my company, Wayfinder Route, for 9 years. I built routes. I built a team. I built a company that solved the boring problems of the entire Rocky Mountain region. And then, this morning, the text. Table is full. Next year. It woke the whole thing up. It woke up the 9-year-old on the stairs, balancing her plate. It woke up the 12-year-old whose pie was relegated to the side counter. It woke up the 18-year-old being told her full scholarship was inconvenient. I looked at the wire transfer confirmation for $95 million. The text was not an inventory report. It was an invoice. And I had just been paid in full. The folding chair, the metal one, the one that was always propped against the wall in the entryway, the one that only came out when they were desperate, the one that wobbled, the spare part, the afterthought. Tonight, at the Ritz-Carlton, there will be no folding chairs. Every seat will be carved wood and upholstered velvet. Every seat will have a name. Every seat will be a seat of honor. I picked up my phone. The plan was set. Now for the execution. Wayfinder Route was not a glamour project. It did not begin in a dorm room with venture capital seed money. It began in a freezing 2-car garage in Englewood, smelling of gasoline and old drywall, with me, 2 partners, and a stack of maxed-out credit cards. Ben was the data scientist, a quiet man who saw the world in algorithms. Sarah was the hardware engineer. She could make a sensor talk to a server with nothing but a paperclip and spite. And I was the architect. I was the one who knew the terrain, the one who understood the actual problem. The problem was not the main highway. The problem, the expensive, chaotic, inefficient problem, was the last mile congestion, as we called it. It was the final 50 feet from the delivery truck to the hospital loading dock, the grocery store back door, the pharmacy drop-off. That tiny gap was where fortunes were lost. It was where cold chains broke, where medicine expired, where produce rotted. It was a problem everyone had, and no one wanted to solve, because it was not sexy. We built a predictive model. It did not just show you a map. It ingested thousands of data points, weather patterns, local event schedules, real-time traffic from every camera we could legally access, even the shift change schedules at loading docks. Our algorithm did not just tell you the fastest route, it told you the smartest route. It told drivers to leave 7 minutes early to avoid a school bus line, or to take a specific side street because the city was starting road work at 10 a.m. We were twice, not once, but twice, within 48 hours of total bankruptcy. The servers. It was always the servers. Our model was hungry. It needed to eat data constantly, and the cost to host that much information was crushing. The first time, we saved ourselves by switching to a cheaper, slower provider, which set our research back 3 months. The second time, we had a major demo scheduled with a potential investor. We were in a conference room in Boulder, our laptops plugged in, ready to show them how we could revolutionize the regional food supply. And 40 minutes before the meeting, our server farm had a power failure. Everything went dark. Ben was white as a sheet. Sarah looked like she was going to be sick. I remember standing up, walking to the whiteboard, and drawing our entire algorithm out by hand. I sketched the maps, the data ingress points, the predictive outcomes. I did the math right there on the board. They did not invest. We took the pitch to Sand Hill Road. I sat in glass-walled offices, drinking their complimentary sparkling water, explaining to men in expensive casual vests how we could reduce fuel consumption in the refrigerated trucking sector by 4%. Their eyes glazed over. "Emery," one of them told me, leaning back in his ergonomic chair. "I'm going to be honest. It's just logistics. It's trucks. It's boring." He smiled, a polite, dismissive smile. "Nobody gets excited about trucks. You show me an app that puts funny hats on dogs. I can get you $10 million. But this," he gestured to my pristine data. "It's not scalable. It's not sexy, boring, practical." There was that word again, the box. I did not get angry. I thanked him for his time. I flew back to Denver, to our cold garage, and I told Ben and Sarah, "We're done with VCs. We're going to the people who actually drive the trucks." We found a mid-sized regional chain, Mountain Harvest Grocers. They operated 112 stores across 3 mountain states. Their entire business model was a logistical nightmare, and their spoilage rates for dairy and frozen goods were astronomical. I got a meeting with their CEO. I did not bring a slide deck. "Give me 1 week," I told him. "Let me put my sensors in 6 of your trucks. No charge. If I cannot save you more money than my service costs by the end of this month, I'll walk away and you'll never hear from me again." He agreed. He had nothing to lose. We ran the pilot. Our algorithm went to work. We rerouted his drivers, rescheduled his loading dock times. We saved 1 truck from being stuck in an avalanche cleanup on a high pass, and another from a 4-hour wait at a store whose receiving manager had called in sick, a fact our system had scraped from an internal scheduling memo. At the end of the month, I went back to his office. I put a single sheet of paper on his desk. "This is your spoilage report from last month. This is your report from this month." We had reduced his cold chain spoilage by 38%, not about 40, 38. He signed a 3-year exclusive contract. That contract paid for our servers. It paid for our servers, and it paid for us to move out of the garage and into a real office, a small, practical office space above a dry cleaner. We grew. We signed another chain, then a pharmaceutical distributor. We were building the boring infrastructure that made the modern world possible. And then, in 2020, the world stopped. The pandemic did not just disrupt the supply chain, it shattered it. The system broke. The highways were empty, but the loading docks were clogged. PPE, ventilators, testing kits, and later, the first precious temperature-sensitive vaccines were stuck. They were spoiling in warehouses, just like my pie on the side counter. The systems everyone relied on were built for a predictable world. Ours was built for chaos. Wayfinder was designed for blizzards on I-70. It was designed for rock slides. It was designed for the unpredictable, granular mess of the real world. The call came from the governor's office. They were desperate. "We have refrigerated trucks full of medical supplies," a stressed-out aide told me. "And we cannot get them to the rural hospitals. The old routes are failing. We heard you. You know how to move things in the mountains." We worked for 96 hours straight. We adapted our platform, integrating state patrol data, hospital inventories, and emergency dispatch. We created clean, high-priority routes, routing essential supplies around obstacles in real time. We were not just routing groceries anymore, we were routing life support. We did not send out a press release. But a reporter from a local journal, not a big paper, but a small, respected one, started digging. He found out that our platform was the reason a cluster of rural clinics had received their vaccine shipment 48 hours ahead of schedule. His article came out a week later. The headline was simple. He called Wayfinder Route the nervous system of the Rocky Mountain routes. That was when the boring company became very, very interesting. The acquisition offers started. Big ones, global logistics giants, tech companies, the same VCs who had shown me the door. They saw the nervous system, and they wanted to own it. We sold to a massive, stable, international shipping conglomerate that would let our technology grow. The negotiations were brutal. They wanted the code, the contracts, the team. I agreed to all of it, with one condition. It was in the final addendum. I had my lawyers draft it, ironclad. I had created a private charitable fund. Its legal name was the Open Table Initiative. My condition was this: 5%, not 5% of the sale, 5% of the company's annual dividends, from the new division we had just created, would be paid into that fund, in perpetuity. Their lawyers hated it. They called it an unconventional and binding royalty structure. That's right, I told them. I'm not donating. I'm building infrastructure. This is a permanent dividend. You want my maps, you pay the map maker, and the map maker says 5% goes to the open table. They wanted the algorithm more than they hated the condition. They signed, this morning, the wire transfer for the sale. My personal $95 million, cleared. I never sent the article about the nervous system to my family. I knew what would happen. I would get a, "That's nice, M," followed by a 500-word text about how Victoria had just been promoted to regional manager at her insurance firm. My news was data. Hers was a celebration. The money is in the bank, but I am still wearing the same North Face jacket I have had for 3 winters. The cuff is frayed. My boots are comfortable, the soles worn thin. I am still, at my core, the practical one. I am frugal. I saved my money to pay for the servers, but I am not cheap. I am strategic. I spent 9 years proving I could optimize the logistics of physical goods, medicine, food, cargo. That text message this morning just changed the commodity. The calmness I feel right now. It is the calmness of the architect, the systems engineer, the calmness of the person who was always told they did not have a seat, who just bought the entire building. I spent my life proving that a good map could fix a traffic jam. Now I was going to prove that a good map could fix a broken holiday. My laptop screen glowed, wire transfer confirmed. The Ritz was booked. That was the where. Now, for the who. This was the call that mattered. I had the number for the Sunrise Home director. A woman named Mrs. Gable, whom I had only read about. I dialed. She picked up on the second ring. Her voice harried, strained by the holiday. Sunrise Home, this is Brenda. Mrs. Gable, my name is Emery Parker. I know this is a holiday, but I have an urgent logistical question. Ms. Parker, are you from the city? If this is about the heating grant, the forms were filed on Monday, I assure you. No, ma'am, this is not about the grant. I stood up, pacing the gray carpet of my apartment. This is an invitation. I have secured the grand ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton Denver for this evening. I want to host all 40 children and your 20 caregivers for a full, formal Thanksgiving dinner tonight. There was complete silence on the line. I heard a muffled sound, like she had put her hand over the receiver to ask someone if this was real. I'm sorry. She came back, her voice tight with suspicion. Who did you say you were? A prank call on Thanksgiving, ma'am, is particularly cruel. It is not a prank. Mrs. Gable, my name is Emery Parker. The event is fully funded, paid for, and confirmed. The kitchen is already staffing up. I just spoke with the general manager, Robert Alden. You can call his direct line to verify. I need to know if you can mobilize your group to be at the hotel by 6 p.m. She was quiet again, but this time It was a different kind of silence. I could hear the gears turning. "The Ritz-Carlton," she said softly, the name sounding foreign in her mouth. "Our children. Ms. Parker, what is the purpose of this? Is this a media event? Will there be cameras? I will not have my children exploited as a feel-good story for the 10 o'clock news." This was the pivot. This was the moment that defined the entire night. "Mrs. Gable, this is the most important part," I said, my voice low and firm. "This is an ethical condition. There will be zero media, none. I have signed a clause with the hotel guaranteeing this. No photos of the children's faces, ever. No last names. This is not a fundraiser. This is not a story for the news. This is a dinner. It is about their dignity. It is about giving them one night where they are the most important people in the most beautiful room in the city. If you are not comfortable with that, if they are not comfortable, I will cancel right now." "Dignity," she repeated the word, as if testing its weight. Okay, 6 p.m. Yes, we can do that." "Good," I said. "Now I need something from you. I need a list, first names only, and I need their sizes." I hung up and immediately dialed Robert Alden. My operation was now live. "Mr. Alden, it's Emery. We are confirmed for 60 guests. 6 p.m. sharp." "Excellent." His voice was crisp. All business. "The chef has been activated. He's excited, is the word. He's pulling his best people off their family dinners for this. They are all on double time. The requirements are non-negotiable. Robert, the kitchen must be a clean zone, no cross-contamination. I need 3 full parallel menus, a classic traditional Thanksgiving, a complete high-end vegan option, and a complete, safe, gluten-free option. I do not want the vegan kid to feel like they are eating a side dish. I want them to have a full, thoughtful meal." He's already planning it. A 3-regions Thanksgiving. He's calling it a classic East Coast turkey, a Rocky Mountain vegan roast with root vegetables, and a Pacific Northwest gluten-free option with smoked salmon and wild rice stuffing. He's taking this very seriously. Good. Now, the room, 1 long table. I want it running the length of that ballroom. I do not care how many tables you have to put together. It must be one continuous surface. No breaks, no joints. Cover it in one seamless linen. 1 table, he repeated. A 60-person banquet table. That's stately. No side tables, no folding chairs. Every chair must be identical. Every place setting must be identical. The children sit with the adults. Understood. And the place cards. I'm emailing you the list now. I said. Mrs. Gable's email had just arrived. 40 first names, 20 caregiver first names. I need the hotel's calligrapher, each name, on heavy cream cardstock, and under the name, I'm sending you a second list, 60 unique, short phrases. I want 1 phrase printed under each name. Phrases, he asked. Yes, simple ones. You are a brilliant mind. Your ideas matter. You are meant to be here. Welcome home. I want them to find their seat, see their name, and read a promise. The dinner was the what. The warmth was the why. It was snowing now. The wet but heavy flakes sticking to my window. These kids would be coming from a bus, into the cold. I opened my laptop again. I did not call a discount store. I called the main concierge at the Cherry Creek Shopping Center's most expensive department store. Good morning. This is David. David, my name is Emery. I am placing an emergency corporate order. I need 40 complete sets of children's winter outerwear. Top of the line. I want 40 insulated winter coats, 40 pairs of waterproof snow boots, 40 sets of wool blend hats and gloves. Ma'am, today is Thanksgiving. We are closed. I know. I'm looking at your store right now on my security feed monitor. David, I know you have a skeleton crew for inventory. I also know your parent company, Halberd Group, has been trying to get a meeting with me for 3 weeks about their European shipping logistics. There was a sharp intake of breath on his end. Who did you say this was? Emery Parker. I was the CEO of Wayfinder Route. The entire tone of the conversation shifted. The power. It was new. Ms. Parker, I see. How can we help you? I've just emailed you the size list from the Sunrise home. I need those 40 packages assembled, beautifully gift-wrapped in plain white paper, and delivered to the service entrance of the Ritz-Carlton by 4 p.m. today. No exceptions. Charge the corporate account I'm sending you. The gratuity will be significant. We'll have to pull the inventory from the warehouse. Ms. Parker, Then pull it. You have my number. Get it done. I hung up. Food, warmth, now, sound. I needed the room to feel alive, not like a museum. I called the head of the music department at the local university. I found her personal cell number. Professor, my apologies for calling on a holiday. My name is Emery. I'm hosting an event tonight for the Sunrise home at the Ritz. I need a string quartet. Your best students. I'll pay 4 times the standard professional rate. They need to be set up by 5:30. She agreed instantly. They can play classical. Classical is good, I said, but also tell them to prepare some folk music. Things people know. Take Me Home. Country roads. Simple, warm tunes. Next, magic. Kids need wonder. But these kids, they did not need scares, not loud noises or sudden surprises. I found a local performer, a specialist in close-up magic. I need you for 2 hours, I told him. Just walk the tables. No stage, no spotlight. Just gentle wonder. Make coins disappear. Make a flower appear from a napkin. Nothing loud, nothing scary. The focus is on them, not on you. He was booked for a family party. I offered him 5 times his fee. He canceled the party, now, the transport. This was the highest risk part of the plan. A snowstorm, even a light one, could cripple the pickup. I called the CEO of Rideco, a regional transport startup I had advised 2 years ago. Mark, it's Emery. Emery, happy Thanksgiving. What's up? My system still flags you as an admin on the back end. By the way, you could probably still route our entire fleet. I need a favor, not a hack, I said. I need 2 of your best luxury buses. I need them donated, sponsored by Rideco, for the Sunrise home. Tonight, pick up at 5:15, drop off at the Ritz. Done. Of course. Consider it done. We'll send our 2 best drivers. Thank you. Now, I'm sending you a file. It's a contingency plan. I've already mapped 3 alternate routes in case the main roads get icy. I'm also sending you the contact info for 2 additional drivers, who you will pay to sit at home, in uniform, in a 3rd bus, on standby, from 5 p.m. until 7 p.m. They will not be used unless one of the first 2 fails. Emery, you are the only person I know who plans for the backup to the backup, he laughed. It's just good logistics. Mark, nothing moves unless it has a fail-safe. I had an hour before I needed to leave. I had 2 more calls. A fabrication shop I had used at Wayfinder to make custom server racks. Sam, it's Emery. Are you in the city? Emery, I'm deep frying a turkey. What's wrong? I need a favor. Your laser etching machine. I need a simple sign. A piece of reclaimed oak, maybe 2 feet wide. I'm sending you the text. I need it delivered to the Ritz in 2 hours. I'll pay you whatever you want. You're lucky I'm a workaholic. Send the file. I typed the words into an email. For anyone who was ever told, there is no room. You are welcome here. I told him to have it placed next to the main fireplace in the ballroom. My last call was back to Alden at the Ritz. The gifts are en route, I said. The buses are confirmed. The musicians are confirmed. The kitchen smells incredible, he replied. The chef is in his element, and the calligrapher is here. She's setting up a small table in the foyer, as you asked, a calligraphy corner. She'll be writing the children's names on parchment for them to take home in a small frame. Perfect. One last thing, Robert. Yes. The legal department. I need the indemnity clause, but I also need the media blackout agreement you mentioned. It needs to state that I am the sole host, but in the event of any accidental leak or media inquiry, All hotel personnel are instructed to direct the focus to the work of the Sunrise home, not to me as the donor. Is that clear? Absolutely clear. Emery, the second your name is attached, it becomes a circus. This is not a circus, I said, looking at the snow falling faster. This is Thanksgiving. Send the document. I'll sign it now. I signed the digital form. The plaque was being etched. The buses were being routed. The chef was plating 60 desserts. I looked at the sticky note on my monitor. If they don't invite you, build a bigger door. The door was now open. It was time to go and welcome the guests. I arrived at the Ritz-Carlton at 5 p.m. The snow was falling in thick, silent curtains, muffling the sound of the city. The great canvas awning of the hotel was glowing, casting a pool of honey-colored light onto the whitened sidewalk. As the doorman pulled the heavy glass door open, the first thing that hit me was the warmth, and then the scent. It was not the sterile, floral scent of a normal hotel lobby. It was rich and complex. It was the smell of cedar boughs, a deep, resinous pine, and sharp, sweet cinnamon. It was the smell of an intentional, deliberate welcome. Mr. Alden met me in the main foyer. Emery, he said, not Ms. Parker. His eyes were bright. We are on schedule. Come see. He led me toward the grand ballroom. The carpets were a deep, dark blue, so thick that my boots made no sound. It felt like walking on the floor of a quiet forest. And then he opened the double doors. The room was vast. My first thought was not about the beauty, but the scale. It was a masterpiece of logistics. Dominating the center of the room was the table. One single, impossibly long table, stretching from one end of the ballroom to the other. It was exactly as I had demanded. It was not a series of round tables. It was a line, a route, a direct path connecting every single person. I walked its length. The linens were not stark white, but a warm, heavy, earth-toned linen. It felt like bread. At every single one of the 60 places, the hotel's heaviest, finest silver cutlery gleamed under the soft light of the chandeliers. The chandeliers themselves, massive crystal structures, were dimmed just so, their light refracting like suspended, melting snow. Down the center of the entire table, the staff had arranged a runner of dried driftwood, massive, unscented pillar candles, and clusters of dark red berries. It was opulent, but it was also grounded. It felt elemental, like a feast in a great hall, not a sterile hotel function. The staff, moving with a quiet, respectful hum, were placing the final touches. I saw a young woman carefully setting a small, laser-cut paper maple leaf at each setting. I picked one up. Written on it in gold script was the phrase, "You belong here." I had to put it down again, my fingers suddenly unsteady. "You belong here," a phrase no one had ever said to me at a holiday table. From the far end of the room, the kitchen doors swung open, and the real smell of the night rolled out, eclipsing the cedar and cinnamon. It was the smell of hot butter. It was the smell of thyme and rosemary, of caramelized sugar, of roasting garlic, of a deep, profound richness. I had never, in my 31 years, associated Thanksgiving with a smell this good. My childhood Thanksgiving smelled of Windex on the glass-top table and the faint, metallic scent of canned cranberry sauce. This was the smell of effort. This was the smell of a promise. I walked toward the kitchen, and the chef himself, a tall man with a fierce, proud expression, intercepted me. He was holding a spoon. "Emery," he said, his voice booming, "you must taste the vegan bisque, roasted butternut squash and apple, with sage-infused olive oil." He held the spoon out. I tasted it. It was velvety, complex, and deeply satisfying. It was not an afterthought. It was a centerpiece. And the main, he gestured back into the steam-filled kitchen. The classic turkey is deboned and rolled with herbs. No child will have to fight with a bone. The gluten-free stuffing is a wild rice and mushroom pilaf. The vegan roast is a seared polenta and lentil shepherd's pie. We are ready. "It's incredible, Chef," I said. "Thank you for doing this." He just nodded. "I have not had this much fun in 10 years. This is food. The rest is just business. I turned and saw the table of gifts, the one I had ordered from the department store. The delivery had arrived. 40 identical, large packages, wrapped in simple, elegant white paper with silver ribbons. They were stacked with geometric precision. Next to them were the smaller bags containing the boots. I walked over and read the single tag, printed on heavy cardstock, that hung from one of the ribbons. Take this home. Winter is warmer when we are warm together. In the grand foyer, just outside the ballroom doors, 2 other stations were set up. One was the calligraphy corner. The artist I had hired was there, her table laid out with bottles of ink, different nibs, and stacks of heavy parchment. She was practicing the names. Leo, Maria, Samuel. Next to her was the Letters to the Future station. I had specified this, a small, locked mailbox, and stacks of beautiful cream-colored stationery and fine-tipped pens. A small framed sign explained it. Write a letter to yourself about this night, about what you are thankful for, about what you hope for. Mrs. Gable will keep these letters safe and deliver them back to you in June. It was not just about remembering the night. It was about giving them a tangible connection to their own future, a promise that June was coming. As I was checking the paper, I heard the sound of instruments tuning. The string quartet from the university had arrived. 4 students, looking awed by the room, were setting up their music stands near the fireplace. They whispered among themselves, and then, as a test, they began to play. The song was not Bach, it was not Vivaldi, it was a slow, beautiful chamber arrangement of Take Me Home, Country Roads. The melody was simple, heartbreakingly familiar, and it filled the entire vast room. It was a song about home, for children who were in a home, but not at home. It's something, isn't it? I turned. Mr. Alden was standing beside me, his hands clasped behind his back. He was looking at the long table, at the staff moving, listening to the music. This ballroom, he said, his voice quiet, has hosted governors, celebrities, billion-dollar mergers, but this is the most beautiful it has been all year. Thank you, Robert, for making it happen. He nodded, but then he hesitated. A strange thing. One of my longtime servers, an older woman named Maria, she recognized your name, Parker. She said, she seems to remember your mother calling last year, trying to get a reservation for an engagement party for your sister. I met his gaze. Maria said they couldn't accommodate her. Alden continued. It was Thanksgiving week, and we were completely booked. They were apparently very insistent, but we were full. I looked away from him, toward the massive, open double doors of the ballroom, the doors that opened onto the warm, cedar-scented lobby. Well, I said softly, tonight, the doors are open wide. He smiled, a small, knowing smile. Yes, ma'am, they are. As he walked away, I saw the small, symbolic table I had requested. It was placed near the grand fireplace, separate from the main feast. It was a single piece of heavy, dark oak. It was empty, save for one thick, white candle. I ran my hand along the surface, the wood smooth and cool, and there, carved directly into the wood, illuminated by the firelight, was the phrase I had ordered. For those who were made to feel invisible. I stepped back to the edge of the room. Finding a spot in the shadows by the wall, I was invisible again. But this time, it was by choice. I was the architect, watching the final pieces click into place. I closed my eyes and just breathed. Hot butter, thyme, cedar, melting wax, and the faint, sweet smell of fresh ink. My entire life. Thanksgiving had no scent. It was just a space, a waiting room. I breathed in again. Deep. This was the smell of my Thanksgiving, the one I had built from the ground up. And in that moment, for the first time, I did not feel practical. I felt present. The setup I witnessed at 5 p.m. was an island of profound calm. It was the result. It was not the process. The process. The afternoon that led to that moment was a war. It began at 2:30 p.m. I was still in my apartment, running logistics from my laptop. The department store was packing the gifts. The musicians were confirmed. The buses were scheduled. The plan was a clean, functioning algorithm. Then my phone rang. It was Robert Alden from the Ritz. The smooth, professional warmth was gone from his voice. It was replaced by a rigid, corporate chill. "Ms. Parker, we have a significant problem." I sat up straight. "Define significant, Robert." "Our central accounting office in Chicago has flagged your wire transfer. It's a large sum, initiated on a federal holiday, from an account they haven't seen before. They've placed a 24-hour security hold on the funds." I felt the blood drain from my face. "A hold, Robert. That's unacceptable. Release it." "I cannot," he said, and I could hear the frustration in his own voice. "It's an automated flag. It's policy. And Ms. Parker, it gets worse. This did not happen in a vacuum. We received a call, about an hour ago. It was routed to our global corporate headquarters, not the Denver hotel." I waited. The silence on the line was heavy. "It was an anonymous caller," he continued. "A woman. She stated that you were, and I am quoting, putting on a show. She said you were insolvent, that the Wayfinder sale was not finalized, and that you were faking the whole thing to embarrass your family and our brand. She advised us to cancel the event before you failed to pay." A show, faking it, the voice. He did not have to describe it. I knew that precise, articulate cadence. I had heard it my whole life. It was the voice that told our parents I was too intense about my schoolwork. It was the voice that called my first investor, behind my back, to warn him I was impractical. It was Victoria. "So you are canceling," I stated. It was not a question. "My hands are tied," Alden said. His voice clipped. "A security hold on the payment, combined with a formal fraud allegation, even an anonymous one. Our global policy is absolute. I have been instructed to pause all expenditures. I have to stop the kitchen. I have to send the staff home. Emery, I am so sorry." The string quartet, the chef, the 60 place settings, the buses, the children, they were trying to shut me down. They were trying to put my pie back on the side counter. I did not get angry. I got efficient. "Robert," I said, my voice dropping to the low, cold tone I reserved for server failures, at 3 a.m., "you are not canceling anything. You are not pausing the kitchen. You are going to listen to me." I swiveled in my chair. My other laptop, my personal banking computer, was already open. "The account you flagged was the new one, the one holding the acquisition funds. Fine. That was a mistake. You are about to receive a second wire transfer. This one is from my private, 9-year-old operating account. It is a swift international transfer, not a domestic wire. It will bypass your Chicago office's holiday protocols and will be in your account, cleared and verified, in less than 3 minutes." I was already typing, my fingers moving across the keypad. Authenticating. Confirming. "Second," I said, opening my email. "Check your inbox. Now." "I'm looking," he said. "You have an email from my corporate attorney. It is a signed letter, dated today. It is a revised event contract. It contains a specific clause indemnifying the Ritz-Carlton from all costs. But it also contains a new penalty clause regarding third-party interference. It states that if the event is canceled due to an unverified, anonymous, or malicious external report, it is considered a full breach of contract by your hotel chain. It also formally authorizes you to cooperate with law enforcement to trace the origin of that anonymous, fraudulent call." I hit send on the wire transfer. "The money is sent. The legal letter is sent. Your move, Robert." There was a long pause. I heard him typing. I heard him take a sharp breath. The wire," he said, his voice filled with disbelief. "It's posted. It's cleared. The full amount. Again." "Of course it did," I said. "Now, about the kitchen. We are 30 minutes behind schedule. I expect you to accelerate. I will cover the overtime." "Yes," he said. "Yes, Ms. Parker, I apologize. Do not apologize, Robert. Just execute. I hung up. The first fire was out. I stood up and walked to the window. The snow was coming down. Harder now. My phone buzzed. A citywide weather alert. Winter storm warning. Flash freeze conditions expected by 5 p.m. 5 p.m. The exact time the buses were scheduled to leave Sunrise home. This was not malice. This was logistics. This was my world. I called Mark at Rideco. Mark, it's Emery. You see the storm? I see it, he said, his voice tight. Emery, my drivers are reporting icing on the viaduct. The standard route to Sunrise is a no-go. It's not safe. I know. That's why you are not using the standard route, and you are not using 2 buses. What I can't send 1 bus in this. You are sending 3, I said. Activate the backup driver, the one I had you put on standby. I sat back down at my Wayfinder terminal. The old admin dashboard. My God, I loved this thing. It was still pulling data. I had live feeds from every traffic camera, every state-run salt truck GPS, every weather sensor. Mark, your drivers are using reactive navigation. It's telling them where the ice is. I'm going to tell them where the pavement will be. My fingers flew. I was routing a new path. It was not the shortest. It was a strange, counterintuitive path that went east, away from the center, before looping back south. Why this way? Mark asked, watching the route I was pushing to his system. It's adding miles. It's adding miles. But it's avoiding 3 major choke points. And more importantly, I'm looking at the municipal services map. The city salt fleet hit that eastern artery 22 minutes ago. The pavement is wet, but it's clear, and the freeze hasn't set in there yet. This route is safe. Okay, he said, trusting me. I'll dispatch the new routes. The buses will arrive at the Ritz at approximately 6:07 p.m., I said, watching the algorithm run its final projection. An arrival delay of 7 minutes. I can live with that. Make sure the drivers are paid a storm bonus. I hung up. 2 crises, 2 solutions. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was not a call. It was the family group text, the one I kept muted, but the notification still showed on the lock screen. It was my mother. Emery, your father and I are deeply disappointed. Victoria told us about this ridiculous stunt you are pulling at the Ritz-Carlton. After you refused to come home for your own family, you are doing this just to embarrass us. We insist you stop this behavior at once. It is childish. Stunt. Ridiculous. Embarrass. The words hit me. The old familiar triplet of shame. I felt the heat rise in my chest, the urge to respond, to defend myself, to send them the $95 million wire confirmation. I stared at the message. Stop this behavior. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Then, another message notification popped up, right above my mother's. It was from Mrs. Gable at Sunrise Home. Hi, Emery. So sorry to bother you. The final list of coat sizes is confirmed and attached. The children are getting so excited. One small update. 3 of the older kids, Leo, Maria, and Sam, just asked me privately if the vegan menu was real. They are very passionate about it. Just wanted to check. I looked at the 2 messages. One was from my family, demanding I stop. One was from a stranger, asking for a vegan meal. I took a breath. I opened my phone. I tapped on the text from Mrs. Gable. I texted the Ritz chef directly. Chef, quick update. I need to confirm 3 dedicated vegan mains for Leo, Maria, and Sam. They specifically requested it. His reply was instant. I made 5. I always anticipate. They will be beautiful. I smiled. Then I went back to my home screen. I looked at the notification from the family group chat. I pressed and held the icon. I tapped chat settings. I tapped mute. I muted the conversation. The noise was gone. The afternoon was almost over. I was about to grab my coat when the phone rang a final time. It was Robert Alden. Emery, he said. His voice was different again. It was warm, but now it was also hard. It was the voice of an ally. "I just got off the phone with our corporate legal team," he said. "I sent them your letter, the trace report on the anonymous call, and a copy of the second, successful wire transfer. I have informed them that the Denver Ritz-Carlton is staking its reputation on this event. I have signed a personal guarantee from my own operational budget, overriding the Chicago office. The first wire transfer is now irrelevant. We are proceeding. We are honored to be proceeding. My staff is ready. We will not let you down, or them." "Thank you, Robert," I said. It was all I could manage. "One last thing," he said. The call came from a private number in Boise, Idaho. I closed my eyes. Of course it did. As I was putting my phone in my pocket, my laptop pinged. An email. The sender was a name I recognized, a managing director at the Halberd Group, the parent company of the department store, and, coincidentally, a major investor in the firm that just bought Wayfinder. Subject: Open Table Initiative. "Ms. Parker, my team at the retail division informed me of your energetic request for outerwear this morning. It got our attention. Then, my partners in the MA division, who just closed the Wayfinder deal, mentioned your unique 5% open table dividend clause. We've been doing some research this afternoon. We know what you are doing tonight at the Ritz. The Halberd Fund believes in logistics. We believe in efficient, bold moves. What you are doing is not charity. It is a high-level logistical solution to a systemic failure. To that end, we would like to formally pledge to match any and all donations made to the Sunrise Home or to your Open Table initiative that are generated as a result of tonight's event. We will set the matching cap at $2 million. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We'll be in touch." I read the email twice. $2 million? My father's text message flashed in my mind. "Table is full." I grabbed my old, frayed coat. He was right. His table was full. I was no longer interested in his table. I was now in the business of building a new one, a much, much larger one. It was not 6:07. My algorithm was wrong. It was 5:42 p.m. when the first bus, a sleek black coach from the Rideco fleet, pulled silently up to the Ritz-Carlton's massive awning. The snow was a fine, crystalline powder, no longer a storm but a decoration, catching the light as it fell. The bus door hissed open, and the cold, blue twilight of the city met the spill of warm, honey-colored light from the hotel lobby. I was not at the main door. I was standing in the shadows of the mezzanine, one level up, looking down. I was an architect watching the tenants arrive. I saw Mr. Alden step forward, not in his business suit, but in a formal tuxedo, as if greeting a head of state. He did not open the door. A uniformed doorman did, bowing just slightly. The first person off the bus was Mrs. Gable. She had her arm around a very small child, who was bundled in a coat that was slightly too large. She paused on the threshold, her eyes wide, just taking in the scent of cedar and the sound of the string quartet, which was softly playing a simple, gentle folk tune. Then the children began to emerge. They came out not in a rush, but in a slow, hesitant line, one by one and in small groups. They were not the loud, boisterous kids of a school field trip. They were quiet, observant. They were mapping the terrain, just as I would. They looked at the marble floors, at the towering floral arrangement in the lobby, at the doorman who was smiling at each of them. A little boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, was the first to enter the ballroom foyer. He was the first to see the long table set up with the calligrapher. He walked toward it, and the calligrapher, the woman I had hired, smiled. "You must be Leo," she said, her voice soft. The boy froze. He looked at her, then at the name Leo, written in flowing gold script on the parchment in front of her. "That's me," he whispered. "Well, this is for you," she said, sliding the parchment toward him. He picked it up. He did not look at the art of it. He just read his own name, over and over. Then he looked up at Mrs. Gable with a tiny, suppressed smile, a smile that was his and his alone, and he held the card to his chest. One by one, they filed in, the caregivers, their faces etched with the exhaustion of a long year, walked slowly. I watched one of them, a tall man, go directly to a waiter who was standing by the door. "I have 2 children with a severe nut allergy," he said, his voice low and anxious. The waiter did not pause. He did not go, "Check with the chef." He bowed his head slightly. "Sir, you are at table 1, section B. All food in your entire quadrant is guaranteed nut-free. The chef has prepared the entire kitchen as a nut-free zone. You are safe here." The man's shoulders, which had been tensed up around his ears, visibly dropped an inch. He just nodded, once, and steered his 2 small charges toward the table. The children found their seats. This was the moment I had worried about, the chaos of finding a spot, but it was not chaotic. They were on a treasure hunt. They walked slowly along the great, long table, their fingers tracing the backs of the heavy chairs, searching. I found Maria," a girl squealed, then immediately covered her mouth. Remembering she was in a fancy place, a waiter leaned in. "You are supposed to be excited. Maria," he said gently. "We've been waiting for you." She read the card. "Maria, your ideas matter." She frowned, reading it again, as if it were a riddle. Then she carefully, precisely, sat down. I saw a young boy, maybe 12, pause in front of one of the musicians, a young woman playing the cello. He was watching her fingers on the strings. "Can we sing?" he asked, his voice barely audible. The cellist stopped playing. The quartet went silent. She looked at him. "What do you want to sing?" she asked. "I don't know," he said, suddenly shy. "Just songs." "You pick the song," she said. "We will follow you." He thought for a moment. "Jingle Bells." The cellist looked at her partners. She smiled. And the quartet, the professional, university-level string quartet, struck the first chords of a surprisingly complex and beautiful arrangement of Jingle Bells. The boy's face lit up, and he began to sing, softly at first, and then a few other children joined in. It was not a performance. It was a release. I stayed in the background. I had changed out of my jeans and into a simple, dark dress. I was just another person in the room. As Mrs. Gable was helping the last of the children find their seats, she saw me. "Emery," she said, walking over, her face a mixture of awe and disbelief. I have no words for this." "You don't need any." "Brenda," I said. "Are you hungry?" "I'm starving." You did all this." She gestured around the room. "I just made a reservation," I said. "The chef did the rest. Come on, let's eat." I took a seat at the very end of the table, next to a caregiver I did not know. My place card was there, just as I had instructed. It said, "Emery," and beneath it, "Welcome home." The food began to arrive. It was not served in buffet-style trays. It was brought out on heavy silver platters, by waiters who served each child as if they were a dignitary. The warmth rolling out of the kitchen was a physical thing, a blanket that settled over the room. I watched the children's faces as the food was placed in front of them. The mashed potatoes were in a deep bowl, swirled with butter. The turkey was sliced and perfect, and then I saw the vegan dishes. They were not, as I had feared, a sad-looking plate of steamed vegetables. The chef had kept his word. The vegan shepherd's pie, the one for Leo, Maria, and Sam, was plated in an individual ceramic dish, the polenta topping perfectly seared, a sprig of fresh rosemary on top. It was identical in its beauty and complexity to the main dish. I watched Sam, the boy who had asked Mrs. Gable about it, just stare at his plate. He looked at the waiter. "This is for me," he asked. "Yes, sir, the vegan shepherd's pie." The waiter said. Sam picked up his fork. He took a bite, and he smiled. It was not a smile for anyone else. It was a private, profound smile. He had been seen. I saw a small girl, in a dress that was a little too big for her, get up and walk toward the fireplace. She went to the small, empty table I had set aside. The seat of honor. She ran her fingers over the dark, smooth wood, tracing the letters she could not yet read. For those who were made to feel invisible. A waiter, the same older woman Mr. Alden had mentioned, Maria, knelt beside her. She did not stop her. She did not tell her to go back to her seat. "That's a very special table," Maria said softly to the girl. "Is it for the president?" the girl asked. "No, sweetheart," Maria said, her hand resting on the back of the chair. "It's for anyone who ever felt like they didn't have a place. It's a seat that's always waiting for them." The girl nodded, as if this made perfect sense. She patted the chair once, then walked back to her own. The calligraphy corner was doing brisk business. Children were lining up, waiting for their names to be written on the heavy parchment. They were holding the finished pieces like trophies, comparing the loops on the L's and the T's. Their names, made into art, had become a permanent, tangible asset. As the meal settled in, the string quartet, having finished Jingle Bells, shifted. They moved into a soaring, warm piece in a major key. It was a bright, hopeful sound, and it felt as if the entire ballroom, which had been holding its breath, finally, after a very long year, exhaled. I was eating my own mashed potatoes, listening to the hum of conversation, when I heard a snippet of conversation from two girls sitting across from me. They were both maybe 10 years old. One of them was looking up at the crystal chandeliers, then at the plate of dessert that had just arrived. A perfect sphere of chocolate mousse. She leaned over to her friend, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. "This," she said, her eyes deadly serious. "This is better than any movie." The dinner was a sealed, perfect world. For nearly an hour, the ballroom was its own universe, operating on its own rules. The only sounds were the string quartet, the clink of heavy silver on porcelain, and the rising, confident hum of 60 people talking, laughing, and being seen. The magic was in the privacy. It was a dignity built on the fact that no one was watching. But the modern world does not respect a vacuum. The breach, when it came, was not malicious. It was appreciative. A young waiter, hired just for the evening, was standing by the service doors, his face full of an awe that was almost painful. He pulled out his phone. He did not film the children. He would never have broken that rule. He filmed the table. He started at his end and did a slow, 6-second pan. It captured the river of light from the candles, the endless perspective of the single, long table, the forest of wine glasses reflecting the chandeliers, and it ended, for just 1 second, on a close-up of a place card. "Leo, you are a brilliant mind." He posted it to his public social media. He did not tag the hotel. He just wrote one word, Thanksgiving. That 6-second video, unmoored from any context, hit the algorithm like gasoline on a spark. It was shared by a local food critic, then by a lifestyle blogger, then by someone who recognized the distinctive carpet pattern of the Ritz-Carlton. In 30 minutes, it had 50,000 views. By 7 p.m., it had 500,000. The city was electric with a single question: what is happening at the Ritz? I knew none of this. I was busy watching the close-up magician, the one I had hired, pull a silver dollar from behind the ear of a very serious girl, who, despite herself, cracked a smile. Then Mr. Alden was at my side. His face was pale. "Emery, we have a situation." That was Channel 9 News. "They are in the lobby. A clip is going viral. They are sending a truck." My blood went cold. "No, absolutely not. Robert, get them out. This is not a zoo. Our agreement." "They know the Sunrise home is here," he said, his voice low and tight. "They want to speak to Mrs. Gable. She is considering it." I found her near the calligraphy table. "Brenda," I said, "the news is here. You do not have to do this. I will have them removed." She looked at me, her face calm, but her eyes were burning. "Emery, our heaters have been broken for 3 weeks. We have been invisible for a very long time. They are promising. No children, no faces. They want to film the string quartet. They want to show the ceiling, the table, the room. I think we let them. Not for the dinner, for the heaters. She was right. This was her resource, her leverage. I was just the architect. She was the tenant. Okay, I said. But we set the terms. They do not cross the threshold. A compromise was reached. A single cameraman and a reporter, a sharp woman in a heavy parka named Diane, were allowed to stand in the foyer. The cameraman pointed his lens over the heads of the children, capturing the magnificent, grand scale of the room, the chandeliers, and the musicians, the children, focused on their desserts, barely even noticed. Diane, the reporter, saw me standing with Alden and Mrs. Gable. She moved toward me. Her microphone kept respectfully low. "This is an incredible scene," she said to me. "Mr. Alden says this was organized by a single, anonymous host. Was that you?" I looked past her, at the table, at the empty plates and the crumpled napkins. "I'm just a guest tonight. My sources say you booked the ballroom," she pressed, not unkindly. "What's your name? Why would you do this?" I thought of the 8-word text. Table is full. I thought of the folding chair against the wall in Boise. I thought of my pie on the side counter. "My name doesn't matter," I said, my voice quiet, but clear. "Let's just say I am a person who has been told there's no room one too many times." Diane looked at me. She held my gaze. She was a reporter. She could smell a story, but she also saw the truth of it. She nodded. Once. "Okay," she said. She signaled to her cameraman. They were done. The segment aired at 7:30 p.m. It was less than 45 seconds long. It was the kicker at the end of the local broadcast. It showed the soaring ceiling of the Ritz, the long shot of the impossible table, the string quartet playing, and then Diane, live from the lobby. "An incredible, secret Thanksgiving," she was saying. "Hosted for the children of the Sunrise Home. The organizer remains anonymous, telling this reporter only that she was a person who has been told there's no room one too many times. A powerful message on a night about gratitude. Back to you, Jim." My phone, which I had left on the chair beside me, began to vibrate. It did not buzz once. It began a continuous, unceasing vibration. It was a physical, violent tremor, as if the world's data was trying to force its way in. I picked it up, a cascade of notifications. Texts from my old partners at Wayfinder. I knew that was you, that no room line was pure Emery. How do I help? Emails from old clients. Emery, seeing the news. We have a surplus of winter coats. Where do we send them? Dozens, then hundreds, of messages on social media, from strangers, all of them tagging me. My name was now linked to the story. "This is Emery Parker, the Wayfinder CEO. Where can we donate?" The dam had broken, and then, amid the flood of support, the familiar poison stream, the family group chat, the one I had muted, the red notification badges stacked up like wounds. 1, 3, 7, 9. I opened it. My stomach turned to ice. My mother. "Emery, your father just saw the news. You have humiliated us. You are making us look like monsters to the entire world. This is manipulative." Victoria. "Congratulations. You finally got the attention you always wanted. Was this the plan to ruin our Thanksgiving just so you could look like a saint? It's pathetic." My father. "Turn this off immediately. You are airing private family business. Call the station and tell them you misspoke. This is deeply inappropriate. Private family business. They had excluded me, and my response was the inappropriate part. They were not angry that I had been left out. They were angry that I had been found. I felt the familiar hot flush of shame, the desire to hide, to apologize, to delete it all. I dropped the phone onto the chair as if it were burning. I looked up. The room was still warm. The children were still laughing. The magician was still performing. The real world in this room was fine. The virtual world was a dumpster fire. My phone buzzed again, but it was a single, Short vibration. A private text. Not from the group. It was from a number I had not seen in years. Aunt Ruth, my father's younger sister, the one who had left Boise at 19 and never looked back. The artist. The impractical one. The text was 2 sentences. I'm in the back lobby, by the service entrance. You are not alone. I slipped out of the ballroom. The warmth and light faded behind me. I pushed through a set of double doors marked Staff and found her, standing under a harsh fluorescent light. Her arms crossed over a worn denim jacket. She was older, but her eyes were the same, sharp, unforgiving, and kind. Aunt Ruth, I breathed. You're in Denver. Conference, she said, clipping the word. Flight home was canceled by the storm. A friend at Channel 9 sent me the clip. Figured it was you. She looked me up and down. You look tired. They're angry, I whispered, the word feeling stupid in my mouth. Of course they are, she said, as if stating a fact. Light is very annoying to people who have chosen to live in the dark. Now show me what you've done. I want to see this table. I led her back out, but not to the main hall. I took her to the foyer, where the room was quieter. She did not look at the chandeliers. She did not look at the silver. She walked straight to the Letters to the Future station, where the children had been invited to hang paper leaves on a small bare tree, writing what they were thankful for. She bypassed the thankful for pie and thankful for magic leaves. Her hand, practical and strong, went to a leaf written in a teenager's careful script. I am thankful for my new boots. She touched another. I am thankful for the vegan food. They saw me. She read a third. This one in Mrs. Gable's handwriting. I am thankful for a night where I could just sit with my kids and not worry. Aunt Ruth let the leaf fall. She turned to me. Her eyes, those practical, tough eyes, were full. She understood. She did not just see the dinner. She saw the $95 million. She saw the garage. She saw the scholarship, the side counter, the stairwell. She saw the entire, invisible route that had led me here. You didn't just build a table, me, she said, her voice rough. You built a fortress. We walked back into the ballroom. The meal was ending. The string quartet was playing a soft, final melody. Diane, the reporter, was still there, but her parka was off. She was just watching, her pen and pad put away. She walked to the podium and tapped the hotel microphone. A soft thump. Excuse me, she said. The room quieted. On a personal note, this is the most remarkable Thanksgiving I have ever seen. I want to thank our host and the children of Sunrise Home. She smiled. Does anyone else want to share what they are thankful for? That awful, familiar silence. The children looked at their plates. Then, a man stood up. The caregiver I had seen earlier. John, the one who had checked on the allergies. He was holding a crumpled linen napkin. I'll say something, he said. His voice was steady. My name is John. I'm a senior caregiver at Sunrise. This year has been hard. Our dining room was condemned in June. A pipe burst. Black mold. We lost our funding to fix it. For the last 6 months, our kids have been eating in shifts. In the rec room, on the floor, on their laps. He looked down the magnificent 60-foot table, at the crumbs, the empty glasses, the laughter. We haven't had a table, he said, his voice thickening. We haven't all sat down together, as a family, for a very long time. Tonight we got our table back. He sat down abruptly. The room was perfectly still. No one was crying. It was a silence of pure, dense respect. Then, Maria, the older waitress, began to clap, her hands hitting a slow, steady rhythm. Mr. Alden joined her, then Aunt Ruth, then me, then all the staff, all the caregivers, and all the children. It was not a standing ovation. It was not a polite applause. It was a wave of sustained, grateful acknowledgement. We were not pitying him. We were honoring him. As I was clapping, my phone, which I had placed on the table, lit up. It was not a text. It was the email from the Halberd Group. The final confirmation. Subject RE. Open Table Initiative. Confirmed. Ms. Parker, we are watching the local news segment. This is exceptional. Our $2 million matching pledge is now active, effective immediately. We are standing by for a link to send the funds. $2 million. I looked at the email. I looked at John, the caregiver. I looked at Aunt Ruth. I looked at Diane, the reporter, who was packing her bag. My family wanted me to retract, to be quiet, to be anonymous. Anonymous was safe. Anonymous was the stairwell. But Anonymous could not leverage $2 million. The news story was just a puff of smoke. It was a feel-good piece that would be gone by morning. But $2 million was not smoke. It was a new dining room. It was heaters. It was infrastructure. I made a decision. I was not going to be anonymous. I was going to be strategic. I was going to use the spotlight, the one Victoria accused me of craving, and I was going to aim it. I picked up my phone, the email glowing on the screen. I stood up and walked toward Diane. The night was not over. The main event was just about to begin. I was walking toward Diane, the $2 million email from Halberd burning a hole in my screen, when Mr. Alden intercepted me. He did not touch my arm. He simply materialized at my elbow, his posture a rigid wall of professional courtesy. "Emery," he said. His voice was perfectly flat. "We have a situation at the front desk." I stopped. The warmth of the ballroom, the sound of the quartet, the smell of chocolate mousse, all of it seemed to recede, locking behind a door in my mind. "A situation," I repeated. "3 individuals. They are insistent. They are claiming to be your family. They are causing a disturbance in the main lobby." Insistent. That was the word. Not invited, but insistent. "Where are they?" I asked. "I have them. For the moment, the main lobby was inappropriate." He gestured. And I saw that Aunt Ruth had moved to my other side. She had heard. Her hand was on my back. A small point of pressure. "I have put them in the Aspen private lounge. They are demanding to see you." "Okay," I said. I looked at Diane, the reporter. "Give me 5 minutes." "Take your time," she said, her eyes sharp. She knew a second story was unfolding. I turned and walked out of the ballroom. Aunt Ruth was with me. The transition was jarring. We left the world of cedar and warm light and stepped back into the cold, marbled reality of the hotel proper. The lobby was vast, silent, and smelled of polished stone. Alden led us down a short, carpeted hallway to a set of unmarked wooden doors. He opened one, revealing a small, soundproofed room. It was beige. Beige carpet, beige walls, beige conference chairs. It was a room designed for neutralizing problems. And there they were. My father was pacing, his face a dark, mottled red. He was wearing the tan corduroys and the itchy-looking burgundy sweater I recognized from every Thanksgiving photo for the last 10 years. My mother was sitting stiffly in one of the beige chairs, her handbag clutched in her lap like a shield, and Victoria. She was standing by the empty minibar, her arms crossed, tapping the screen of her phone with furious, repetitive jabs. She was wearing a silk blouse, perfect for her Thanksgiving dinner. She looked up as I entered, and her eyes were not angry. They were reptilian. They were cold with a pure, undiluted contempt. "There you are," my father snapped. The word was an explosion in the quiet room. "I cannot believe you. I have never in my life been so embarrassed." A young hotel security guard, looking barely 20, was standing by the door. He looked relieved to see Mr. Alden. "It's all right, son," Alden said to the guard. "I'll take it from here." The guard nodded and slipped out, closing the door behind him. The sound of the latch clicking was impossibly loud. We were sealed in. "What is the meaning of this?" my father demanded. "Those people out there, the reporters, you told them. You told them we didn't have room for you." I looked at him. I was not the 9-year-old on the stairs. I was not the 31-year-old who had received his text. I was the architect of the room next door. My voice, when it came out, was neutral. I was not accusing. I was clarifying a data point. You texted me, I said. At 9:04 this morning, the message said, "Table is full, next year." And you take that, he gestured, his hands flying. You take a private family matter and you broadcast it on the 10 o'clock news. You bought this circus, he spat the word, just to make us look like monsters. No, Dad. My voice was as cool and clean as the ice water on the small side table. I did not broadcast anything. I booked a dinner. You had a capacity issue at your table. I solved a capacity issue at mine. I did not take a seat. I just added 60. 60, my mother whispered. Her first words. She was looking at Aunt Ruth, not at me. Ruth, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be in Boise. Hello, Jean, Aunt Ruth said, her voice dry. I was in town, got delayed by the storm, and you know me, I always did love a good show. This is not a show, my mother cried, her voice rising with a familiar, trembling hysteria. This is our family. We just wanted a small dinner. Emery, just us, just the core. It's been such a hard year for Victoria. With the promotion and the wedding planning, we just wanted it to be simple, quiet. She looked at me, her eyes pleading for me to understand, for me to become small again. You always have to make things so complicated. Before I could form a reply, Aunt Ruth laughed. It was not a happy sound. It was a sharp, dry bark that cut right through my mother's performance. Simple quiet, Aunt Ruth said, stepping forward. Is that what you're calling it? Jean? My mother flinched, as if she had been slapped, because from where I'm standing, small and quiet, looks a whole lot like you just didn't invite your other daughter. Tell me, what's the new definition of small? Does small just mean without Emery? My mother's face crumpled. She had no answer. Victoria, however, always had an answer. Oh, stop it, Aunt Ruth, she scoffed, pushing off the minibar. You're just as bad as she is. Can't you see what this is? It's pathetic. She looked at me. Her lip curled in that way that had always made me feel like I was a bug. A 5-star hotel, for a bunch of kids. She said the word kids, as if it were a dirty thing, a contagion. It's so much drama, Emery. It's so thirsty. You're just desperate for attention. You finally got your little television moment. Are you happy now? I was about to respond. I was about to say that I had signed an agreement to avoid media, but I did not have to. The door opened. Mr. Alden, who had been standing by the wall like a silent sentinel, stepped fully into the room. He was holding his hotel-issued tablet. His presence, his tuxedo, his perfect posture, sucked all the oxygen from my family's rage. He did not look at me. He looked directly at Victoria. Ma'am, he said, and his voice was no longer smooth. It was pure, frozen steel. The Ritz-Carlton does not distinguish between its guests. Tonight, the children and staff of the Sunrise Home are our guests of honor. He took a small step closer to her. And in this hotel, guests of honor are defined as any person we are proud to invite through our doors. It was a perfectly executed, devastating countermove. He did not insult her. He did not raise his voice. He had, with surgical precision, defined her as someone who was not invited. Victoria's face, which had been flushed with righteous anger, went chalk white. My father saw the shift. He saw his advantage, his rage, all of it evaporating. He sputtered, turning on me. This is absurd. This is financially insane. We are not paying for this. Emery, you are acting like a spoiled child. I almost laughed. It was so ridiculous, so divorced from reality, that I almost laughed out loud. You are not paying for anything, Dad, I said. You were never asked to. I held up my phone. I did not have a paper receipt. I had something better. I opened my bank's secure app. I pulled up the wire transfer history. I am not a spoiled child. Dad, I am the woman who just finalized the $95 million sale of her logistics company this morning. I turned the screen so he could see the completed wire notification. The event is paid in full, by me. The second time, in fact, after the first wire was flagged by your anonymous call to corporate. I looked at Victoria. The call from Boise. The color drained from her face. My mother just looked confused. What call, David? What is she talking about? My father ignored her. He was staring at the number on my phone screen. 95 million. He was staring at it, the way the children in the ballroom had stared at their place cards. As he was processing the number, Mr. Alden's tablet, which he was still holding, pinged. A single, sharp notification. He looked down at it. A small, genuine smile touched his lips. "Excuse me, Emery," he said, holding the tablet up. "This is a live text from Diane, the reporter from Channel 9. The segment just re-aired. The donation link for the Sunrise home, the one they put up on their website. It has crashed. From the traffic." He looked at me, his eyes bright. "She says they have logged over $50,000 in verified pledges. In the last 10 minutes. The room went silent. This was a number my father understood. This was not feelings or drama. This was currency. This was influence. I could see the calculation working behind his eyes. The anger, the embarrassment. It was all dissolving, being replaced by a new, dawning, horrified realization. The daughter he had relegated to the stairs, the impractical one, was now the one on the news, commanding a torrent of money. His entire posture changed, the pivot, the one I had seen him pull in business meetings, the absorb and redirect maneuver. He cleared his throat. He smoothed the front of his itchy sweater. He forced a smile, the one that never reached his eyes. "Well," he said, his voice now suddenly, sickeningly, reasonable. "Emery, you've certainly made your point. It's quite the gesture." He looked at his watch. "It's late, 8:30. Your mother made her apple pie, the one you like." He was lying. I hated her apple pie. It was always watery. "Why don't you," he said, gesturing to me, and then to Ruth. "Why don't you both come back to the house? We'll clear a space. You can have dessert with us." He was offering me the side counter. He was offering me the scraps. After I had bought the entire ballroom, he was offering me the one thing, the only thing. I no longer needed. I looked at him. I looked at my mother, who was now nodding eagerly, her face full of desperate hope. I looked at Victoria, who was staring at the beige carpet, defeated. "No, thank you, Dad," I said. My voice was not cold. It was not angry. It was not triumphant. It was just finished. "I'm already home." He looked baffled. "What, here in this hotel lounge?" "No," I said, gesturing back toward the wall, toward the sound of the music that I could just barely hear. "In that room, with those people. This is my table now." Aunt Ruth put her hand on my shoulder, a firm, grounding pressure. She looked at my father, her brother, and her voice was quiet, closing the argument forever. "It's not about who's right, David," she said. "It's not about the pie, or the text, or the money. It's just about who opens the door, and who keeps it closed." I turned. I did not say goodbye. I walked to the door. Mr. Alden was already there, holding it open for me. I walked past him, Aunt Ruth beside me. We walked out of the beige lounge, past the security guard, and back into the cold, marble lobby. The heavy door of the private lounge clicked shut behind me. I stopped. I stood on the deep blue rug of the main lobby. I waited. I waited for the feeling, the familiar, hollow ache of guilt, the acidic sting of having caused trouble, the old, ingrained, 9-year-old's instinct to go back, to apologize, to make myself smaller, to fit back on the stairs. It did not come. I felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, no pain. For the first time in my 31 years, closing a door on them did not feel like a rejection. It did not feel like a loss. It felt like an equation. Solved. It felt like a route. Optimized. It felt like a bug in the code. Patched. I turned and walked toward the ballroom. The warm light, the sound of the string quartet, washed over me. Diane, the reporter, was at the podium at the front of the room. She saw me enter. She saw Aunt Ruth. She saw my face. She smiled. A real, conspiratorial smile. She tapped the microphone. "And now," Diane said, her voice ringing out, clear and bright, filling the magnificent room. "If everyone could please direct your attention to the main screen, our host has won. Final. Surprise." I walked back into the warmth. Diane, the reporter, gave me a subtle nod and stepped away from the podium. The lights in the ballroom dimmed, not to darkness, but to a rich, intimate amber. The crystal chandeliers glowed like captured stars. The string quartet, as if on cue, shifted from their folk tune to a single, sustained, warm chord. It hung in the air, a note of pure anticipation. Every eye in the room turned to the front. I stepped up to the podium. My hands were steady on the wood. I looked out, not at the children, not at the caregivers, but at the single, unbroken line of 60 people, joined together. I did not introduce myself. I did not say my name. I was not the CEO. I was not the host. I was just the architect. I leaned into the microphone. "Good evening," I said, my voice clear and amplified, filling the room. "I just have 3 things to say." I paused, letting the silence settle. "First, tonight, there is no such thing as an extra seat. There is no such thing as no room. Second, every name on every place card tonight is a name that deserves to be called out loud, in the most important rooms. And third," I looked at the clock on the wall, "this table does not close at 10 p.m. There was a quiet ripple of confusion. What does that mean? As I finished, a line of waiters, led by Mr. Alden himself, emerged from the kitchen. They were not carrying food. They were pushing large, wheeled silver carts. On top of the carts were massive, domed silver cloches, the kind used for royal banquets. They wheeled them into the center of the room. Mrs. Gable looked at me, her face blank with confusion. "Mr. Alden?" I said, nodding to him. With a theatrical flourish, he and the staff lifted the silver domes. Underneath, there were no more desserts. There were 40 thick, cream-colored envelopes, stacked neatly, and next to them, glistening on velvet trays, were 40 electronic key cards, the keys to the Ritz-Carlton. A collective gasp went up from the caregivers. "The night doesn't end at 10, I continued, my voice calm. "For all 40 of our guests from Sunrise, and for your 20 caregivers, the Ritz-Carlton is your home for the rest of this holiday weekend. Rooms have been prepared for all of you." The children were now standing, buzzing, pointing at the keys. "The envelopes are for you," I said, projecting my voice. "Inside, you will find a few things. You will find a handwritten letter. You will find a voucher card to claim the new winter coat and boots that are waiting for you at the front desk. And you will find tickets, for every single one of you, to the Denver Science Museum for next month's exhibit." This was the emotional part. Now, for the strategic part. "But," I said, "that is just for tonight." I turned to the large, blank LED screen that had been sitting dark behind the musicians all evening. "What about tomorrow? What about the heaters?" Brenda Gable's head snapped toward me, her eyes wide. John, the caregiver who had spoken, was on his feet. "A few hours ago," I said, "my own fund, the Open Table Initiative, received a pledge from the Halberd Group. They pledged to match, dollar for dollar, any support generated by tonight's event, up to $2 million. I clicked the button on the podium. The screen flashed to life. It was not a complex graphic. It was just white text on a black background, clean and brutal in its efficiency. Pledge activated the Halberd Group matching ceiling, $2 million funds, designated the Sunrise Home, the Open Table, annual dinner, Brenda Gable, let out a sound, a small, strangled sob. She put her hand over her mouth. "The heaters are just the start. Brenda," I said, my voice thick. "You're getting a new building." The room was vibrating. Before the applause could start, Mr. Alden stepped up to the microphone beside me. "And on behalf of the Ritz-Carlton Global Group," he announced, his voice booming with pride, "we are honored to commit this grand ballroom, free of charge, every Thanksgiving night for the next 5 years. This table will be here. It will be waiting." Now the applause came. It was not polite clapping. It was a roar. It was thunder. It was the sound of 60 people who had been invisible, realizing they had just become a permanent institution. The applause subsided, and I saw Aunt Ruth walk to the front of the room. She was holding the small, etched wooden plaque from the Seat of Honor table. She held it up for the room to see. Diane, the reporter, signaled her cameraman, who was still in the foyer, to zoom in. Aunt Ruth did not make a speech. She just read the 4 words carved into the wood. "For anyone," she said, her voice rough, "who was ever told, it is full." The thunder of applause returned, and then, the most extraordinary thing, the massive double doors to the kitchen swung wide open. The chef, the one who had made the vegan bisque, walked out. He was not alone. Behind him, in a long, perfect line, was every cook, every busboy, every waiter, every dishwasher who had worked the event. They walked to the center of the room, their faces flushed with heat and pride, and as one, they formed a line, and they bowed. They bowed to the children, they bowed to the caregivers, they bowed to the table. The children, stunned, looked at each other, and then they stood up, and they bowed back. My phone buzzed in my hand. I looked down. It was the final, expected email from Denver Commercial Realty. Subject: lease executed, 9400. Arapahoe, Ms. Parker. The 5-year lease on the warehouse property at 9400 Arapahoe is finalized and countersigned. Congratulations. The Open Table Center has a home. I closed my eyes. It was done. The $2 million pledge from Halberd, the 5-year ballroom commitment from the Ritz, and now, the 5-year lease on a physical building, a community kitchen, a coat bank, a logistics hub for the Open Table Initiative. I had not just bought a dinner, I had built a supply chain. I looked up, breathing in the scent of cedar and success. My eyes were drawn to the tall, arched windows that faced the street. The curtains had been left open. Outside, the snow was falling, and standing on the sidewalk, just outside the pool of honey-colored light from the awning, were 3 figures: my father, my mother, Victoria. They had not gone home. They were standing there, in the cold. Their coats clutched tight. They were watching us. Diane, the reporter, had gone back out with her cameraman. The bright, harsh white light of the news camera snapped on, illuminating them. My family. They flinched, turning their heads away. Their faces caught in the glare. They were outside. They were on the sidewalk, in the cold, looking in. For the first time in their lives, they were on the other side of the glass. They were watching a closed door, and inside, through the window, they could finally see, clear as day, what a full table, a truly open table, actually looked like. I turned my back to the window. I turned my back on them. The string quartet, seeing the night had peaked, shifted their key. They launched into a soaring, brilliant, major key finale, a sound so bright and triumphant it filled every corner of the room. Diane, the reporter, now speaking more as a guest than a journalist, raised her glass of water. "A toast," she shouted over the music, her voice full of joy. "A toast to the Sunrise Home, and a toast to the names that were called." The room exploded, the applause, the laughter, the sound of 60 people, seen and celebrated, roared up to the ceiling, met the chandeliers, and rained back down. It was the last sound I heard as the image went black, and in the silence, 2 words, in simple white text, appeared on the screen. Next year, and then, they too faded. Thank you for listening to my story. I would love to know where you are listening from, so please comment below and share your thoughts. Be sure to subscribe to Maya Revenge Stories, like this video, and give it an extra boost by hitting the hype button, so this story can be heard by even more people.